would that be the ideal scenario? April, May, whatever the timeline is. Like, would you like Rockhold right out of the gate?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We're not getting any younger. Let's go, Rockhold.
Yeah. And he's been active. He had that great fight in Karate Combat, so
yeah.
seems like he's doing well.
Yeah,
so.
he's moving. He's working on things. So but yeah, let's get some of the best fights that people want to see right away, and that's the fight that I'd be most excited about.
He is the former UFC middleweight champion, retired, not retired, coming back, GFL, all kinds of good stuff. It is always my pleasure to speak to Chris Weidman. And Chris, I thought for a second, like, did he just break the record for the shortest retirement in history? But then someone reminded me, Chris Curtis actually retired and then fought again that same night. So he didn't break the record.
Unfortunately, I tried to break the record, but Chris Curtis against beat me. Yeah, I mean, listen, the whole thing was like a surprise to me. I retired. I did the weigh-in show thing. I said I was going to leave my opportunities open, and my door open and see what opportunities come. And I didn't think MMA really was going to be an option that I'd be interested in because I just didn't think the money would be there. I heard the GFL money kind of dried up. They already had all their people and they were paid, or in contract with tons of guys. And I knew another guy who was a big name that was trying to go into the GFL and they weren't interested. So my manager and I both thought that it wasn't an option. So at the time, I thought I was probably done. And then next thing I know, things just started moving. And yeah, now I'm in the GFL.
So you do the weigh-in show on Friday. You make the announcement. I saw the announcement. I was like, oh, wow. Because I know you've always said, like, you're doing everything fight by fight. You're not going to make a decision, a snap decision. You want to make a right decision. So you made that now. So Friday, so, like, how quickly did the GFL thing happen? Because you announced the retirement on Friday. How quickly was the GFL thing actually done?
My manager was, like, trying to talk to me about it on, like, Monday and Tuesday. And I'm like, I don't feel like I just don't even want to make decisions and, like, lock up into something. And then the money was really good. And then ended up getting they sent me the first contract on Thursday. So the day before the draft that they had. And then, yeah, I signed like later that night, I think on Thursday, after my manager went through it and everything. And yeah, so it happened real fast. It's kind of a shocker for me too.
Yeah. So now, can I ask, like, again, not that you owe them anything. I mean, obviously they gave you the time on the weigh-in show. Obviously, it seems like you've always had a good relation with the UFC from what I've known. Did you tell like anyone at the UFC, like, hey, I'm actually not retiring, like I'm going to the GFL? Because, like, again, like, obviously you've been very loyal to the UFC for a lot of years, but you always got to do what's best for your career.
Yeah, they knew that there was they had brought it up to me, like, listen, if you could go somewhere else and make some, money, doing MMA, boxing, like, bro, all power to you. So it wasn't like, they were going to be in shock over it. So yeah, there was no real discussions. Before I closed the door with them, they were completely understanding of whatever I decide to do, they're going to be supportive of.
Yeah. And from my understanding, you're still going to be working with the UFC, still doing the weigh-in shows and stuff.
Yeah. Yep. And I think I'm going to start doing some analyst stuff for them as well. Yeah, so hopefully that just keeps on moving in that direction. And and I just fight in the GFL.
So you're fighting the GFL, so you're not retired. But when you made that announcement that previous Friday, can I ask, like, what led to that particular moment? Because again, I know we've talked about this your last couple of fights. You said, hey, fight by fight, I'll make a decision at some point. I know that you can't fight forever, but you're feeling great in the gym. So can I ask, like, what led to that moment on the weigh-in show that you're like, I'm done in that moment?
Well, it was really just time after my fight with Anders. That fight for me was just awful in my mind. So I just was like, what am I doing? Like, what's the point now? Yeah, so I was thinking maybe I'll just do one and put the gloves down. I didn't feel great in that fight. I wasn't performing well. And yeah, so that's kind of where I was at. Like, just do one, put the gloves down. The UFC was kind of like, kind of fighting me on it. Like, they didn't really want me. Like, I don't think they really wanted it, me to do that. And I'm like, all right. And then they were cool if I left and, did my own thing. And yeah, so that's kind of how it happened. I was like, yeah, maybe I don't really, when I talked to my wife and stuff right afterwards, I was like, I think I'm done. And I'll just retire. Then I kind of was like, maybe I'll just do one more. And by that time, the UFC was like, maybe you should just, be done. And I'm like, all right, maybe you're right. All right. And their point was like, listen, like you do one more fight here, you're on the prelims, you win, you're gonna still want to fight more. You're never gonna be truly happy with your last fight, and they're making more room for these young up and comers, and so I got it. Like it's not really like the UFC for me at this point, my age, where I'm at. It's not like the best position for me. So to go in these other leagues where I get to fight guys that are older, that I have history with, that kind of really excites me. My last few fights have been against guys that I'm like a way bigger name than. It's not as exciting, when you're just locally just talking to people and you explain who you're fighting. They're like, who? Nobody knows them. It's kind of like takes a little bit of excitement out of it, especially since some of the huge fights I've had throughout my career, where they were just huge and everybody knew everything that was going on. There's a lot of excitement behind it, and then these last few fights, it's against guys that are not big names, and the excitement behind it wasn't big. So to now have the opportunity to be in these fights that people are going to get excited about, it's going to help me really get excited, train harder, and be able to hopefully put on some good performances.
Absolutely. Can I ask, like, I'm not trying to paint it like there's bad blood or anything. Was there any surprise or disappointment that was the UFC's reaction when you mentioned like laying it down in the octagon? Because I know you mentioned when you talked to Era, like they were just like, yeah, we're gonna keep you on the prelims. Like you want to be on the main card for 310, and they're like, no, we're keeping you on the prelims. Again, I'm not trying to paint like bad blood, but was there any disappointment?
Yeah.
Like it's like years of service. Like you've been in, like you literally were one of the best middleweight champions of all time. It seems kind of odd they wouldn't like, hey, we want you to have that moment.
Not at that, not really then too much. Yeah, a little bit, but it was more the one that did bother me, which I let them aware of, and then they gave their reasons on why, and I understand. I'm pretty logical, and I could see things from both sides pretty good, and I could try, take my ego out of it. But it was 310 was MSG, right? The first one I was supposed to be on. Oh, that was 309.
Yeah, that was 309. 309. Yeah.
So 309 was the one I was supposed to be on the main card. They promoted the whole time I was going to open up the card. And I was super excited about that in New York. And the week before the fight, they took me off the main card and put me on the prelims. And I was like, what the hell, man? Like I was super excited, to be on the main card. And to open it up. But they had their reasons, and obviously, I mean, in my mind, the fight would be completely different if I was on a different slot, but that's not realistic. Who knows? It wasn't a good fight for me. It wasn't a great fight, I think, even to watch. So they made the right decision. But yeah, that's the only time that I was like bothered, because it was like the whole time, you're expecting to be opening up the pay-per-view, in New York City, Madison Square Garden. So that got me excited, and then when they changed it, it bothered me. But with this last one, like I said, I was like, kind of like, all right, who are they going to give me to? Like another no-name dude. So the excitement still, like, I'm kind of with them, and in this other leagues, I'm making way more money too, and I get to fight exciting guys, so I can't complain.
Yeah, when you're because again, you've done so many things in your career. Is it nice to still feel appreciated that the GFL comes in and says, "Hey, we're going to pay you a whole boatload of money"? I assume, but a whole boatload of money, good amount of money. And like again, you mentioned like I think everyone immediately kind of shifts their attention to you and Rockhold. There's history there. He's there, but there's other matchups as well. But like, does it feel nice? And again, I'm not taking a dig at the UFC, but is it nice like somebody's still showing you that appreciation? That, hey, we want you here. Like it's not like almost like an obligation thing. Like yeah, you've been here. We'll give you one more fight, but like seems like GFL's like no, we want you.
I mean, it's just the circle of athletics, and professional sports. You're the man, you're the man, you start aging out, there's just a little less appreciation and less excitement around you. And it's just, you can't take it personal. It's just kind of the way it works. And it's going to work that way for everybody. And, it was my time to go. And yeah, it's cool to have like where like, I feel like, you're almost like in the new guy on the roster. There's excitement behind you. Like you're another up and comer almost, even though I'm 40. Yeah. So it's I guess that is cool.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you did a lot of things in your UFC career, and I know, like I said, you're still going to be working with them. So I imagine there's not really ill will, and it sounds like they were supportive of you going out and doing this. So I'll be honest, like the weigh-in show's cool, and obviously you've been a big part of that. But like, I remember when Robbie Lawler had his retirement. I remember when like even like Michelle Watterson, like they had those cool video pack, Carla Esparza, even of a loss. It was just cool to see. Like I remember Carla had her kid in there. They played the
Yeah.
video packet. I just that if I had one regret, it'd be that. Like I wish you had that moment. Like I wish you had
Yeah.
that because that's something they've been doing recently, and I love that they do that. Like they know ahead of time, like they're like you're gonna retire. But I love that they have those moments. It's like, man, that's so really cool to celebrate legends. I wish you had that moment. I guess is what I'm saying.
I appreciate that, and that's kind of, and I had brought that up. Like I love especially the Robbie Lawler one was to me. I mean, he went out great, with a knockout and everything. But it was also like, does he still want to fight again? Is he still looking to get back in there? Or is that it's really ever completely scratched? But I'm with you. That's the way I kind of imagine it going. But I will say, just to counter that, like what they did for me on the weigh-in show. I mean, it was 51 minutes, I think, total of on their program talking about me and my career. They brought on all these people I had no idea any of it was going to happen. Like it was a complete surprise to me that they had Volante out, on air. They had my kids, my wife. They have Longo, Aljo, Wonder Boy. I might be forgetting one right now, but all these people that have been close to me throughout my career, come on and show me some love, and just kind of talk about, my career a little bit. They put on the highlight videos, and I think it was honestly, I couldn't have asked for anything better. I don't have like regret to be honest. I'm not thinking, damn it, I really wish I, had one more fight and was able to do like Michelle Watterson and Lola did. I'm at peace completely, and I was blown away with everything they did for me. I didn't feel like I was worthy of all that. That was a lot.
That was awesome, and I think you deserved it. Absolutely deserved it. Can I ask? Like, I know right now your focus is shifting into GFL and fighting again, but I mentioned this to some of the legends I speak to when they kind of end their career with the UFC. Can I imagine you'd be a guy that would appreciate a UFC Hall of Fame nod? Because I feel like you got to be a shoe-in. I mean, I don't want to like. There's certain guys like I remember when Bisping retired. I was like, they're just go ahead and put him in. Like, just like why mess around? Like, just so like, can I imagine that would mean a lot? Because it feels like, from my perspective, you're gonna get in. I don't know if it's gonna be this year, next year, whatever. But like, it feels like I don't. I imagine that would mean a lot, and it feels like it's gonna happen at some point.
Yeah, I think it would definitely mean a lot. And I think that's going to be cool. It was never something that was my goal in my career ever to be in the Hall of Fame. It really was never even a thought. But as you get older and as you get to the end of my UFC career recently, like you start thinking about those things, and that would be pretty cool, to have. So yeah, I think that would be. I would definitely appreciate it.
Yeah. So now let me ask you about GFL because everyone's been buzzing about this. We covered the draft last week and it got so much attention. Like everyone was into it. And
Really?
by the way, listen, I appreciate the NFL of it all. I'm a big NFL fan myself, but was there any way you were not going to end up on the New York team? Like Ray Longo's one of the coaches. Like, come on now, let's be honest. There was no way you were not going to end up on that team.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to spoil it. Now, that came out and said that they had picked the teams, beforehand. It got leaked, and they had their whole thing going. But Longo, he was pissed. He was pissed because he thought he did all this work on figuring out who he was going to have on his team, and and he had taken phone calls from these guys, and they're like, "Hey, can you get me on your team? Can you get me on your team?" And he's like promising guys things. And I think it was like the day of the draft, they had told him, "Hey, you're actually not going to be drafted. We got the team slotted out already." And I thought it was pretty funny. I had to just go with it. I'm not going to spoil their thing. He had just gone on Ariel and admitted what happened and everything. So it's all the cat's out of the bag. But when Longo picked what's his name, Kevin Lee first over me, it was fun for me just to bust Longo's balls and publicly just kill him because he couldn't defend himself. He had to pretend like he picked Kevin Lee first because otherwise he's going to discredit the draft thing. But now it's the cat's out of the bag. So I thought it was pretty funny, especially Kevin Lee because the history with Ally Quinta and everybody. I'm like, man, you picked Kevin Lee over me. Do you not care about Ally Quinta at least? You know?
That's rough. It's rough.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, listen, I know we've talked, like, obviously we talked a lot during the time after you had the broken leg. We talked a lot on your comeback. We talked before and after the Tavares fight, before and after the Bruno fight, and obviously before and now after the Anders fight. One thing you always said is like a big key for you was how you feel in the gym, how you're feeling. And again, you've said many times, like, I feel great, but obviously you got to go out there and perform.
Yeah.
I don't think, and I'm saying this as a guy who's followed your entire career, I don't think you ever lacked motivation going into a fight, but you mentioned going in there, Bruno Silva, Eric Anders, these are not legendary names. Nothing against them, obviously, but they just haven't had the career you've had.
Yeah.
Can I imagine there is a little bit more excitement? Like, again, I know it's the little details, right? Like, do you want to go do that extra training session on a Friday night at 9:00 when you get Luke Rockhold as an opponent, or any of these other names that are out there? Like, I don't think you ever lacked motivation. I don't think you ever went into a fight saying, "Oh, I don't really want to be here." But
yeah,
to be honest, like the chance to like run it back with Rockhold or some of these other names in GFL, like that's got to get you a little more excited, right?
Oh my God, the Rockhold one. I mean, I can't lose to that guy twice. It just can't happen. We were supposed to face off, I think, 2 other times in the UFC, and it fell through. I think he got injured. I think it was in 2018. He backed out like 2 weeks before the fight, and then we were supposed to. I mean, I figured we were going to fight again. You would thought he was going to beat Bisping, back then when I pulled out of the fight 2.5 weeks before the rematch. And then I figured as soon as I come back, from my injury, I had to get a neck surgery, that we would face off again. But it just never happened. And here we are in 2025 in a different league, and now I could get that back. That's one that, like, if I'm doing like meet and greets or, just bumping into fans, that does come up quite often. Like, bro, you need to get Rockhold back. So that one definitely is going to excite me. I'm going to train extra hard for him.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing about this. Like, I remember back in the day, this is going back like 20 years or 15 years or whatever, but when IFL was around, I know you remember IFL, they did some really cool, like, they called them legends fights. Like, Renzo Gracie fought Pat Miletich. And again, people got to remember, that's not now. I'm talking this like 15 years ago. They were fun. It was fun to see those that's kind of what we're seeing here is like legends fights. Like, again, I keep rolling back to Rockhold because I think that's the one everyone's got their eye on. But there are other legends in this league. And as you mentioned, like that's fun, right? Like those are fun matchups, and also again, like they're more exciting. I'm not trying to take it. It sounds like I'm really taking a shot at like Eric Anders. I'm not, but like you and Rockhold have a certain cachet, you have a certain history, you have a certain name value. That's more exciting, right? Like that's gonna be a bigger headline.
Yeah, 100%. I'm real excited for that. And I think they have all these legends. You don't know how it's going to work out with the teams and if the matchups work out, but I'm pretty sure they're going to be able to manipulate it and make sure that the fans are going to get to see the fights that people want to see, which is really cool. Still being able to try to keep it into a team format. He said that, they could, like, if New York isn't fighting, I don't know what team, let's say Rockhold's on LA, that doesn't mean that Weidman doesn't get traded to Sao Paulo for that fight, and he gets traded to whatever team to make sure it works. So I think there's a lot of manipulation and stuff that they're going to be able to do to make sure that the fights that people want to see happen. And I could see this, after hearing him on Ariel, I like the concept, man. I mean, obviously it's very fighter friendly. It's, the insurance for you and your family, the retirement fund, the 50-50 splits on all the profits. I mean, it's so great for the fighters. The question is it sustainable? It's a lot of money out the door, and how they're going to make that money back. But after listening to him, I feel like he does have a pretty good business plan on how to make that happen. I think you start with the big fights that everybody wants to see, get their eyes. And I'm not saying it's ever going to compete with the UFC. I'm saying it's just a different animal, but I could see that. I could see it possibly, working out, and then eventually get to the point of, you're on your team unless you get traded, and it doesn't have to be all the biggest fights. You have like true teams, and you get owners that own the teams, and they're really trying to like get the best fighters for their team, and to win championships. And I think what they said is they're trying to do it in the off season of the NFL. So it's going to take up for the NFL games on Sunday. So they'll have like the first fight is at 1 p.m. Then the second fight is at 4 p.m. And then, the third fights are at 8 or 9, whatever, at night. And, and so you get 30 MMA fights, with a lot of big names on a Sunday while you're just sitting home. Instead of watching football, you could watch fights. So I think the concept's actually pretty cool, and I hope it sticks. I mean, it's only going to be good for fighters, more promotions that are able to, pay fighters accordingly. And so I think it brings some excitement to the MMA game.
Yeah. Now I've heard, and I think Darren Owen has addressed this publicly. I kept hearing April was going to be the launch date, and I think he's actually said that now publicly. Do you have any idea, like, when you'll actually get to debut? Because I know the way he laid it out, like you mentioned, 3 fights. I think he even mentioned like maybe doing a Monday night card too. It was like a Monday night football card, but a Monday night fight card, which is a cool concept. I think it's one thing that gets missed. Everyone wants to go on like Friday or Saturday. There's other nights of the week. Like you can find people to watch fights on other nights of the week. Are they giving you an idea, like when you'll get to fight?
I'm getting the same information you have. Towards the end of April is when they're trying to put on the first event, and so that's when I'm just kind of planning myself to be ready to fight. But I listened to him on Ariel. That's really where I'm getting all my information with Darren talking. Was that they were looking to rent all these different venues in these different cities, and now they're starting to have some offers, I think, for venues paying them money to go to them. So I think there's going to be a lot of chips up in the air right now, and they're gonna have to figure it all out. And so I don't know. April sounds good, and April sounds good for me. But who knows? This is a very new thing. There's a lot of moving parts. They have a lot to figure out and nail down, and we'll see how long it takes them to get it all taken care of. But I think that's a cool projection. Is the end of April.
Do you think right out of the gate it's going to be Rockhold? I mean, that's the one we're all talking about. And the one thing Darren said, listen, the team concept, like I said, will it work long term? I don't know. I can't say whether it will or not. Like there was fun. I had fun watching the IFL back in the day when it was that, Team Miletich against Team Renzo Gracie, things like that. Yeah. But would that ideally be the first fight? Like I know he said we can manipulate things a little bit. I think Rockhold's on the Dubai teams. That's Javier Mendez. Like there's no way he's not Javier Mendez. So, would that be the ideal scenario? April, May, whatever the timeline is. Like, would you like Rockhold right out of the gate?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We're not getting any younger. Let's go, Rockhold.
And he's been active. He had that great fight in Karate Combat. So seems like he's doing well.
Yeah, he's moving. He's working on things. So, but yeah, let's just let's get some of the best fights that people want to see right away, and that's the fight that I'd be most excited about.
Yeah. Now, can I ask Chris, in all honesty, like when you were at the tail end of the UFC, the one I know I've said it a couple of times here, you said fight by fight, training camp goes well, fight. I'll make decisions there. I hope GFL is paying you a whole boatload of money, but are you still taking a similar approach now? Like in terms of because there's more in terms of opportunity, like fun fights. Like I mentioned, like Rockhold's the one we're all eyeing, but there are other big names that you could get in GFL that would actually, get a little bit more buzz, no offense whatsoever to Bruno Silva, guys like, is this now, are you now not in that fight by fight mode? Is it kind of rejuvenated you a little bit or where is your mindset at going into now that you are with GFL? And this is kind of like a season, like, there's going to be like opportunities for more fights in 2025.
Yeah. Obviously always one fight at a time, but I signed a 3-fight deal. So, there's definitely more than 3 guys in there that I think I'd be excited to fight that I have history with and OGs at the middleweight division. It'll just be big names and stuff. So I could see me doing 3 fights and and then we'll see where it takes us. The cool thing about this also is that when I was retired for MMA and UFC, I was thinking more like some of these boxing matches, like an Anderson Silva, give me Tommy Fury, walk my way up to try to get a Jake Paul, make some money to box these guys and beat them up. But I could still do that with inside the GFL, which is cool. So as this thing's playing out, I'll be, keeping my eyes on the boxing world as well.
Yeah, I think those opportunities are out there. I mean, obviously, you always showed incredible boxing. We never forget the Anderson Silva knockout. So, I mean, there's opportunities there. And again, the name
people want to. There's a lot of people that hate me still because of the Anderson Silva fight. They'd love to see him have an opportunity to knock me out in boxing. So, I think there could be a lot of there will be a lot of excitement, I think, with that fight too.
You mentioned it right there, like right there. You just says, "Ooh, that's interesting." I didn't think about that. You and Anderson boxing, like that would actually be a lot of fun, right?
Yeah. I think that would be fun. I think it would be a lot of fun.
And Anderson, like I said, man, that dude's like the ageless wonder. Like when he came back and he was fighting, and I was like, I don't know if I love this idea. Anderson's like 47, dude. He looked great. I was like, this is amazing.
He is he really is an amazing dude. He's a true martial artist. I think he lives a martial artist lifestyle, and I don't know if he'll ever, stop training and maybe still fight and always looking to fight and stuff. He takes his craft very serious, and that's why he's one of the greatest of all time. He really believes in his craft.
So we covered MMA, GFL, boxing, maybe Anderson Silva. Obviously, you've done grappling as well, which I think there's always. I think nowadays there's a lot more opportunities for grappling, which is kind of fun. Like you can actually make money in grappling.
That is true. Yeah, the grappling thing too. I'd love to jump in some of these big super fights in grappling too.
Yeah. So I'm assuming bare knuckle. Are we leaving that one out? Is that no bare knuckle?
They'd have to pay me a lot of money. I love watching it now. I really didn't like watching in the beginning. Now I'm starting to watch it because I'm super into like technique and just watching people be technical. And at first in my mind, it was just these guys are just brawling and everyone's hands are getting broken and they're getting sliced up with, little punches. And I'm like, man, you get just a lot of stitches on the face and broken hands. You're out for a while. I'm like, oh, hell no. But, now I think that sport's evolving. Like you can see the guys learning how to fight in that world, and you have to fight differently than just an MMA fight or wearing small gloves. It's a different animal, and I could see them evolving. And I appreciate watching it. It's pretty good. It's fun. It's exciting to watch, man.
Listen, if you threw Luke Rockhold and Mike Perry in an MMA fight, you'd think 99 times out of 100 Rockhold should win that. He's a middleweight, Perry's a welterweight. Like it's not. But like I said, and bare knuckles is a different thing. And when Rockhold's like, yeah, I did it, just not for me. That's totally okay. That's totally fine. Bro, it's not for everybody.
He got hit with that one punch. I think that's exactly what went through his mind. He was like, "Fuck this, I'm done. This is too much." Yeah. You got that pitbull Perry in your face.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I love it, but like I never fault anyone for saying like I don't really want to do that. I'm like I totally understand. Like I like watching it, but like there's no chance in hell you never want to see. Like there's certain guys I'm just like I don't really want to see you go in there and punch each other bare knuckles. It's okay.
Yeah. Look at Ben Rothwell. You want to get in the cage with that guy? Holy smokes, he's like a bear.
Yeah. Well, Chris, man, obviously I'm happy for you. Like I said, again, the way this all worked out, more than anything, it seems like you're happy with your decision, and it seems like, GFL's paying you well, which that's my thing. You know me. I think over the years I've always said this. I'm an advocate for the fighters. I want the fighters to get taken care of. So I want everyone to succeed. I wanted Bellator to succeed. I want PFL to succeed. I want everyone to succeed because it's better for the fighters. So the fact that GFL stepped up, awesome for them. I'm happy for you. And dude, I'm telling you, like if we don't listen, Darren Owen, I don't know if you're going to watch this interview, but if you don't book Weidman Rockhold too, what are you doing? Just what are we doing here?
Thank you. I appreciate that. It means a lot, just you saying, how you're for the fighters too. That's important. We need guys like you. You guys are huge assets for the fighters. And I appreciate you all the years that you've put in to cover the sport and to give more light to us. So I appreciate that.